Christian Harris back on the practice field. This is a big deal. Texans need some sort of pulse at linebacker. Right now, there's no chess pieces. Chess pieces are guys that are going to be key contributors next year, the year after. Right now, they just have a bunch of one-year guys. They got Kamu Grugier-Hill, who's worse this year than he was last. They got Christian Kirksey. He hasn't done a lot. The linebacker position right now, the least amount of promise when it comes to chess pieces. In the secondary, you got Jalen Petrie, you got Derek Stingley, you feel good about. You got Kenyon Green, who is on the offensive line. So the premium picks in the draft, depending on how you look at it, some say first and second round are the premium, but Christian Harris is a third-round guy, 3-year starter for Nick Saban at Alabama, started every game at linebacker despite the fact he didn't even play it in high school, was an offensive guy and a cornerback. Christian Harris could provide the Texans with some sort of hope, some sort of upside, some sort of long-term contribution at the linebacker position, which they need because the linebackers have been the weakness of this team. If you listed the worst parts of the Houston Texans up to this point in the season, in which they're 0-3-1, many people would say quarterback because quarterback's a polarizing position, but the linebackers have been really bad. You've had the one good play by Christian Kirksey. Outside of that, they've struggled in coverage. They've struggled against the run. And there's a lot of people even thinking that maybe they should start looking at some other guys and put some other guys in there instead of these veteran guys who've struggled right now. Christian Harris could be that guy. And Christian Harris is a guy who can run that I expect to contribute. Not too far-fetched to expect Christian Harris to find his groove, be a starter next year, and we'll get a look at what he is all about. As for the first pick in this year's draft, Derek Stingley out of practice. He's got an arm bruise. He left the game last week with that arm bruise, tried to come back in. After the game, he seemed okay. The adrenaline was probably still going, and Derek Stingley was out of practice. It'll be interesting to see if he's on the field against Jacksonville. In other news in the Texans, the other big news of the day, Pharaoh Brown. Pharaoh Brown has a new home, and it's his original home. He's going back to his home state, his home area. He's going back to Cleveland with the Browns, where he was there for a little bit before that 2020 season. So best of luck to Pharaoh Brown. Always enjoyed talking to Pharaoh Brown, one of the best practice players that I've ever seen. I call him Texans Rudy. Pharaoh Brown, he's going to be in Cleveland. Maybe he'll get to come home and face the Texans to a second home, I should say, and face the Texans whenever Deshaun Watson is back. Download the Odyssey app to listen to what we talked about on In the Loop on Sports Radio 610 today. Talked about Davis Mills. I got 4 questions about Davis Mills on sportsradio610.com. Is there a pressure issue with Davis Mills? Could Davis Mills struggle when there's more pressure? The home stats and road stats are pretty alarming. There's a significant drop-off when Davis Mills is on the road instead of at home. And there's also a significant increase in quality of play by Davis Mills when there's less pressure. You look at the end of last year when there wasn't a lot of pressure to win, Davis Mills plays his best ball. The start of this year, when games are winnable and expectations are high, he's one of the worst statistical quarterbacks in the league. And then the one time that the Texans are in, a 3-touchdown game or 2-touchdown game, Davis Mills plays his best ball. So maybe that's just something that is part of the early maturation process of Davis Mills. Maybe it's a trend. Maybe it's something that's true, but isn't always going to be true. But there is a lot of context there that Davis Mills, when the pressure is the lowest, he plays his best. And when the pressure is the highest, he plays his worst. Maybe there's some sort of gray area there. Maybe there's something to it. But either way, it is there, and there's a decent enough sample size to at least look at and give it some attention. Then the final piece of news today, Chris Conley cut for, I think, the 45th time this year by the Houston Texans. Will he be back? Who knows? I would hope not. I hope they move on from that. Texans, Jags on Sunday. We got you covered on Sports Radio 610. Listen to the postgame show. It's the best postgame show there is, best digital Texans content you can get. Myself, my buddies, we're going to bring it to you. We're going to talk about it. And tomorrow we'll probably have a Texan on the air as well. We always do on Thursdays. Talk to you guys later. Subscribe to the channel at Landry Locker on Twitter, at Landry Locker on Instagram. Harris back on the field. Stingley hurt. Pharaoh Brown signs. Davis Mills questions.